you don't want to throw in a curveball where somebody can look back and go, well, where did that come from? That just doesn't fit. You want readers to look back and go, how did I not see that?
Welcome to Writers Uncorked, the podcast where we uncork the truth about the writer's life. We're your hosts, bestselling authors Jenna and Michelle Scott, and we're here to bring you the no BS chats you've been craving.
Get ready to raise a glass to the real, unfiltered world of writers. This is Writers Uncorked.
Hello and welcome back to Writers Uncorked. Today we're going to be chatting about writing murder mysteries, which is Michelle's favorite topic, wouldn't it be?
Oh yeah, that and besides that, horses. Obviously, I just got off a horse, so excuse the look today.
We're rolling with it. You're like, are we videoing? I'm like, of course we are. Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Nah, let's just go with it.
Good.
Yeah. So I want to chat about that. So basically, to give our listeners a bit of an overview, you write predominantly like murder mysteries in terms of like thrillers, cozy mysteries, all of that. So yeah, do you want to give us a little rundown about that?
Yeah, so obviously I write under two names. I write thrillers, which are very different from the mysteries. So I write thrillers under AK Alexander, and then I write what you would call cozies, although there's some of them that I would say aren't necessarily cozy. I mean, that's the interesting thing about the mystery genre, just like the romance genre, there's so many subgenres. So yeah, I've written paranormal mysteries. So but it's all the what it always comes down to is a murder or murders, right? So whether, and not necessarily with a thriller, you could have a suspense, you could have a romantic suspense. I mean, it's just so expanse.
Yeah. Why did you want to write a lot of like around the murder mysteries? Like what sort of led you to writing those?
Really, as a kid, I loved Nancy Drew. I loved all mysteries, and I was a big reader. And then even as an adult, like I would take the train because I went to school in LA and back down to San Diego. I'd take the train on the weekends. It's about a 3 hour trip on the train, and I would read books like Pete from P.D. James, like real, like, procedural mystery, amateur sleuth mystery, that kind of stuff. I like mysteries, and I love like true crime stuff, and all the, what is it, Criminal Minds. I mean, all that stuff. So just
Yeah,
putting.
I love all that too. And it's so weird that we like get an interest in all of that. But like I remember, with my dad, we used to watch Cold Case and like we'd be sitting there, I'd run from the computer in the ads and then like run and watch it with him and just finding it like both guessing, okay, who's gonna be the killer? And then sometimes we'd get it right and sometimes we wouldn't. I don't know. I really love those. I think it's like that. And I love watching thrillers too because they don't necessarily always hit the same structure. Like it throws you sometimes. I don't know if you've got that sort of down packed of like movies, especially like if anything sort of I suppose what's the word, like is unpredictable. Do you find that most thrillers are predictable or
You can go either way with a thriller, because a
mm,
thriller is all about ramping up the suspense, right? So a thriller, the reader can know who the killer is or the antagonist. They can know who the villain is. But the your protagonist, whether it's a detective or whoever that is, they may not know. So you build suspense that way. I tend to be a little more covert and make a reader think it is this person and I'll throw in a curveball. But I won't. Here's one thing writers should be wary of. You don't want to throw in a curveball where somebody can look back and go, well, where did that come from? That just doesn't fit. You want readers to look back and go, how did I not see that?
yeah, but how do
That's
you
it.
do like that's so like complex, right? It's interesting, like you follow a story structure and then it's like I don't know what one you sort of I always follow like the Save the Cat formula.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've read that book.
Yep.
There's the Save the Cat writes a novel one.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that book. Like, and I always, when I'm plotting out, like, we'll go with that sort of structure. And yeah, like, how would you add in those sort of like, it's yeah,
It's all in character development, in my
yeah,
opinion. It's all in character development and in subtleties. So if you're creating a narcissistic character, well, a narcissist doesn't always look like a narcissist on the outside, right? But there's usually some little subtle hint that you go, oh, I see that connection now, right?
yeah,
So really, it's not easy to do. And then it's also, can be plot divisive, right? Like it can be like all of a sudden there you start bringing in a backstory, which does help sometimes. Like the killer's backstory starts for me weaving into the thriller, where you go, oh, this is how this person got this way, and then you can kind of look back and really see how it developed, you know?
mm,
Now, I'm in a quandary right now because what I'm writing right now, thriller wise, um, I have written it so far where you know who the killer is, at least the reader does. My Holly Jennings, who's the detective, she does not know. And I may keep it, but I may not, because I'm like, it's really fun to throw in that little twist,
mm,
just some little twist. But what's different about a thriller versus a mystery is a mystery your reader is solving along with you, the writer, right? Or you, the detective, like they're solving along with your characters.
yeah,
And and you do have to, you don't want them to solve it too soon, and you do have to throw in enough clues and red herrings and so forth, and have really strong character development so that again they look back and go, oh, I should have seen that. You don't want to make
mm,
it so obvious where, oh, I knew it was that I knew that was what was going to happen all along. I knew they were the killer, right?
yeah.
um
Or
Although you
you
get
don't
some,
want it to be someone that's complete, like hasn't even been in the story, and then and then it's like, oh well, that's just yeah, you don't get that
I
connection
hate
point to it. Yeah,
that's a big pet peeve, is like all of a sudden you're on page 250 and this character gets introduced, and maybe it was just a, now I would say, like, maybe let's say it was just a minor character you saw at some point in chapter 3 that was a waiter. You can't don't do that. Like that's
yeah,
not fair. That's
yeah.
not fair, right, to your reader. And then, like, for me right now, that's a pet peeve. The other one is I'll be this just happened to me recently reading a book, and there's a pivotal point that's very important to the plot, and the reader or the writer didn't flesh it out enough where it actually was like, that couldn't happen that way. Like I think a lot of readers skim over that and they won't pick that out, but writer, you should be able to. Writer will pick that out and go like, you would have, I did, other writers will, and be like, that you need to flesh that out because that just didn't work. And it upset me because I was like 300 pages into the book. It was almost over. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah. So just, I think you have to really do your homework. Well, you do with all books.
Yeah, or have someone reading it. What I find helps me, like I have a writing coach who's like my editing team, and like we meet every fortnight and we'll go, like she'll read what I've written and then add her notes in that help me like flesh it out way more and make the story like so much better, because it's like that out, because you can get stuck in this story and be like, okay, I'm like, I've got the plot, like, and these, it's all building in your head and you're visioning the scenes and building it together, but then like an outsider opinion can like pick up on that, okay, we need to add this in here if it's going to be this type of thing, we need to add it in. And then like even you've got like alpha readers who are like, will read as you write, so you like add in a Google Doc and like put in 10 chapters, they'll read, add comments, that type of thing. And then you got your beta, I don't
Beta,
know,
yeah.
beta, yeah, everyone pronounces it different.
Tomato,
Um,
tomato.
Yeah, so when you actually finish the whole book, like they can come in and read it and add their 2 cents. And I think that's really important before you even get to editing stage, because then the editors can really focus on other stuff instead of picking up on these things too and like wasting their editing time on that. How do you feel about like, yeah, outsiders sort of
Oh,
opinion?
I think it's really important. I think that writers live in such isolation in so many ways, right? We're in our head constantly and we're telling these stories. So you do get really close. And it's very difficult sometimes to know, like, because you think it's working, but yeah, I think it's very important to bounce it off of somebody who's at least at your level or even further along with their writing career is really
Yeah, yeah.
important. You can find that, or somebody who writes in a totally different genre who can bring in their thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you and writers have to be very careful to check their egos and be like, oh no, that doesn't make sense, right? Like, no, that wouldn't, you have to be willing to take a step back and take the constructive criticism. And you get to veto. You get to go, no, I think the way I've written it is just right. Right.
Yeah,
That's fine.
that's it. Like that's the thing too, coming back to you, what you know, and like some things will be like, oh yeah, but thanks for picking up on that. I wouldn't have seen that, but that's a really great point. Then other times it's like, I don't agree. Let's not do that. And that's okay. Like that's, that's like everyday life. You don't agree with everything everyone else says to you. So you've got to come back to that too.
No, exactly. No, I do. I think it's important. I think the other thing that's important is we're always as writers told write what we know, and I do lean into that more so than anything else, but I also think you can write what interests you as long as you really do the research and the work. And if you're going to write what interests you more so than what you know at times, it's very important you find somebody who does know. And even if you think you know, you still should find somebody who knows more than you to read it. And
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. Like, okay, I know horses. I've grown up with them. It's my other side of my life, right? Um, I don't know everything about them, so even when I write a horse book, I will call people who I know more than I do. And I will ask them, do you think this is correct? Is this correct? Like lean in on that. And I just read or started to read a book and I had to put it down, which I rarely do because this person espoused himself as an expert, as an equestrian, and there was something in there that I was like, that would never. And I talked to two other equestrians, and we were just like, that would never happen. It would never. So if you're gonna write something that you think you know, it's still better to ask somebody who knows more than you.
Yeah,
You
even
know?
even though it's fiction, you're still going to have some facts right. Especially like
Most
even around like surgery or doctor stuff, like the stuff that we have to like research and know. Can that happen if you have this injury or whatever?
Well, I've had to like, fortunately, what I do, and writers can't be afraid to actually place phone calls. It's funny because when I did a mystery set in your part of the world in Australia, I found an inspector in Australia where I set a vintage murder. I think that was, yeah. And he and I exchanged emails on how he would investigate this particular murder. And then when I do the thriller stuff, like I have a homicide detective that I've worked with and I've actually like emailed him like, how would blood splatter against the wall if a weapon, like I won't get graphic, but essentially you got to be willing to like do, reach out and actually talk to experts and do that. And then also, like you said, so you do that piece, but then you also do the piece of having a read and critique, whether it's a partner or a group. I'm wary of groups, and I'll tell you why. I think sometimes you get too many opinions. It's like
Yeah.
too many cooks in the kitchen, and then it can confuse you as a writer. And that did happen to me as a young writer. I was in a group. This is prior to being published, and I had an amazing mentor who, to this day, I attribute so much to my success to him. Um, he actually took me aside one night, and he goes, I don't, he goes, I don't know that you should come back to the group or listen to them. I don't know it's benefiting you because they're confusing you and I can see it. And I think you just need
Mm.
to go write this book as it is and then bring it back to me and I'll read it. I'll do a rating critique with you. And I was
Yeah.
like, awesome. And because I was just like, well, should I go this way or should I go that? Wait, what should I do?
So
But
much information
yeah,
in those
yeah.
group, and I get over like group chats, and like because we have like writer group chats, and I get so overwhelmed. Like I'm just like, I always mute the conversations, and when I'm ready I'll go in and read. But yeah, it can be quite distracting, and you can get caught up in that for a long time, and then at the end of the day you don't do any writing, or you don't go, because you're just in this like, yeah, pause stage of like, oh, over analyzing everything, and oh, they said this, like I should write it this way or that way. And like, yeah, it can get quite paralyzing in that.
I think, like, I mean, at the end of the day, writers, this is our art, right? So
Yeah.
even if it's pulpy type fiction, it doesn't matter. It's a piece of us that we're putting out there, and we're just humans. So, you know, it's nerve-wracking to show other people. And then when you can get caught in a do loop like, oh, this sucks, right? Like, and because there's so many good books out there, and there's a lot of talent, and you can get caught up in that. So you have to be wary of that. And then you can go down a hole, which we should have another conversation. I know we've talked things through before on the whole marketing side. You can go down that rabbit hole real
Yeah.
deep. And
Yeah.
so, because the other thing I think writers are, I don't know about you, I know me, and you know me, I'm a procrastinator. Now, when I sit down and start writing, and I will write and it will flow, but I will take a course on writing, I'll take a course on marketing, I'll do a cover, I'm like, before I sit down and actually start to write. I don't know what that is, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally get it. And then, yeah, I've been practicing a lot of like just distractions, like even having like one tab open, like, because if I have my writing tab open and then there's a heap of other tabs open, I'll like get in this stage of like, oh, I'll just go check that. Or if I'm stuck on a word and like overthinking it 20 million times of like, where does he move? Or how does, like, you get in this spiral. And then if those distractions are eliminated, I'll like force myself to push through it, and I can go back and edit it, of course, like just getting through it. And like I was saying, yeah, I did a Threads post the other day. I forgot about Threads and went back on there. I was like, oh, what's this? And anyway, I was writing something, and it was like, every day, like no matter how many words you do, like some days I will not even, I'll do like 400 words, and I'm like, at least it's something. Like at least, like I'm not comparing myself to, I mean, this sprint room, and like other people are writing thousands and thousands of words. I'm like, at least I showed up, I got some words down, and that adds to the overall count of things. So
Yes.
it's yeah.
That's the key, is showing
Yeah.
up for the pages, even if
Yeah.
it's just a page,
Yeah.
even if it's just a page.
And going back to like writing murder mysteries, so the reason this topic come up, we had a meeting yesterday, and I was telling Michelle that I'm writing a series that's like revolved around a murder mystery. So I normally write a lot of romance, but this book has that element in there, and I will probably get Michelle to read it to make sure that I do have all the right parts in there, because
Love to.
yeah, because I'm working with my writing coach on it, and it's so much that I'm learning. Like I consume a lot of like murder mysteries, as we were talking about, and I love the TV series, and we're talking about Pretty Little Liars, and you were talking about used to watch that with your daughter, and that's like my all-time favorite series. And they have like a stalker. I call it like a stalker, I guess, in a sense, and like how she writes the cryptic messages, and then they get involved. There's a lot of murders, and there's just so much going on, and I absolutely love that. So I have been adding that murder mystery element, and yeah, I'm learning so much to make sure that I've got those red herrings. I've got like making sure that the actual killer, like I started writing it, then I'm like, okay, because I've got this like puppeteer person who is like that, she's sending these cryptic, he, I'm not going to give away who it is, but sending these cryptic messages because her brother goes missing, and she's like, oh, where he got caught up in this sort of gang that rules the towns, and he sort of goes missing, and they're looking for him, and she's getting these cryptic messages, and it sort of ends up like a mind game. And then you've got that person, but then you've also got who ends up murdering this person. So there's like two people. And I actually, when I started it, I was like, I don't even know who actually ends up murdering, because sometimes I don't even know as a writer. I'm like, I didn't know who actually ends up murdering him, because it could be multiple people. So I wanted to add that element of those, it could be her, the people that she's hanging around with and her love interest, like it could be them, or like to add those bit of elements. And I know who it is now, but that was an interesting process. I don't know if you ever feel like you don't even know who it is.
Usually I do, because I do such major outlines.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I will figure out in the plotting process and the outlining process who the killer is. But what you've done is created some really great red herrings, right? And for writers out there who don't know the difference between the clue and a red herring, is the red herring will take you down a path thinking, we're going, like, you've got this one piece of the work, right, of the manuscript, where somebody is sending these cryptic notes, and so the reader could be like, well, is that the killer? So that's your red herring. They're going down, right? They've taken that trip with you, when the real killer is actually, if you go left, the real killer is over here, right? And the clues are actually what you build upon to find out who the real killer is. So the clues will take you to the real killer. The red herrings will take you down the path, the other path,
Yeah.
to try to get you not to follow the clues.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
what I was thinking. I'm like, is the person that the puppeteer that's sending the message, are they going to be the killer? And then I'm like, actually, I want that to be somebody else. And shit, I don't want to give to it, because I know a few people that have sort of read it so far, and they're like, they're not sure. They're like, could be this person or that person, which is good. But like, yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, is that the same person? But yeah, she's protecting the killer by sending, like, she sort of doesn't. It can go both ways. I think I ended up the solution of like the cryptic messages is trying to throw her a bit, but that person is trying to figure out and solve the murder mystery as well, by sending the main character on these, oh, you should check here, or, why don't, like, this, I found out this information, and like sharing that, and they're sort of trying to work out the murder mystery as well and figure out who actually did it. And I think that, I don't know.
Those are the clues. Like, you
Yeah.
have to now, you have to go back and make sure that your reader can look back and see, like, whatever clue it is, whether it's an email was sent and, it said X, Y, and Z, like that, versus the cryptic message that took you down the red herring path. And so,
Yeah.
but you have to have both elements
Yeah.
in, particularly a mystery. A thriller, not necessarily, because again, the thriller's objective is to heighten the suspense. Now, you have to, on every page, whether you're writing mystery, romance, it doesn't matter. It always has to have an element of tension to it to keep the reader turning the page, right? Even in literary fiction, there's always some element of tension there, emotion, whatever that is. So for the thriller, it is about, amping up the suspense, whether that's like, there's somebody's set a bomb somewhere, and like they have a time frame to get to it, or your killer, or your main character knows, your protagonist knows that this killer's going to strike again, when and who and how, and then you're in the, all of a sudden, you are the reader's turning the page, and you're in the killer's mind, right? And the killer's like stalking somebody from their perspective, and how that's going, and maybe the reader doesn't know who that person is stalking. Like, there's just so many ways to do it, but that is the objective. And not that a mystery can't be, a mystery should be suspenseful as well, but it is more about solving it than, I
Yeah.
would say, that is. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the thriller is all about kind of terrifying you a bit,
Yeah.
you know,
Keeping you on the edge of your seat.
keeping you on the edge of your seat. Now, a good mystery does too, but in
Yeah.
a different way, in a
Yeah.
different, in a way.
Yeah, and it's like it's so hard to like talking on like genres and stuff, because this is the book that I'm writing is very much a romance, but it's got that murder mystery element to it, and it's quite interesting, like finding the right, and it's, you know, when you go into categories and stuff on like Amazon, and like, yeah, we've talked about this a lot before of like categorizing a series and book, because you're like, well, it's got this, like it's predominantly this, but it's got this, it's got suspense, it's a, you know, it's got, and we've talked about this on one of your books, so it's like it's a cozy mystery, but it's also like a rom-com, and it's like, yeah, it's hard
I
categorize.
think it's, again, that comes into a whole nother discussion on marketing and studying keywords.
Yeah,
And keywords is a whole mystery in itself. And it also, again, it's a little bit of a luck of the draw when if you get into the algorithm, right? And you get
yeah.
into the right algorithm. Like I was studying the other day the Amazon keywords, and I found one. I was like, well, first of all, I was looking at books similar to what I was writing, and I saw like what was it, marriage and parenting or something, but it was in fiction. It was like a marriage. I don't know, I took a snapshot of it. Anyway, I was like, oh, this could fit. Oh, it was like divorced
Mm,
and di- divorce life, or women's domestic fiction or something like that, right? And I was like, that's interesting. And then as I clicked on that, then it led that book to, like, that algorithm picked up into, let's say, the women's domestic fiction. And then that algorithm picked up into murder mystery, right? Like, so it's, it's a little bit of the luck, but if you can get your keywords right, that's huge.
yeah, and we'll have
Right.
a chat about that of like, yeah, the key, and like how, like in terms of yeah, marketing, and like having, like, it's good, it is good in a sense of having those different, you know, if it is romance, but then then you break it down into, okay, well, what type, like what are the themes in the book, what tropes do we have, you know, really distinctifying those elements, so that then you can use that for marketing, and it's going to make sense to the readers, and you can hone in on what they're actually like, what the book is. Like if you just say romance to me, I'm like, okay, I get like there's going to be a romance element. What out? Like that's a bit boring. You know, like is it going to be a
Well,
rom-com? Like is it a funny romance, or you know, is it a cozy mystery where we're going to have to solve some type of mystery, or like, I think the importance of that is we
that.
can use that for marketing, which we'll have a chat about in a different episode. But it is good in some, like in those ways for when it comes to marketing, because you can really identify that and capture your ideal readers.
No, I agree. And
Yeah.
and what you think is your ideal readers may actually not be who's reading your books.
Yeah,
And
and it goes well beyond the age, like that whole game of like, oh, let's identify your ideal reader. Let's go with age, gender. I call BS on that. Like it's
I do
not,
too.
you cannot identify somebody that loves a murder mystery with romance, and like you could have a 65-year-old, you can have a, you know, 17-year-old, 18, like you cannot identify, and then it has to be a woman that you're writing for. Like, but no, like you can't put it in a box like that.
No, it's interesting. Like when I have a young adult mystery series, right, with romance in it. And when I look at the demographics of the readership, it's people over 35. And I've
Mm,
even had men write me who've listened to it on audio saying they loved it, you know. So it's really, you, when it comes to writing, because there's just no guarantee. You could write the best book out there, it could be amazing. I know there's writers out there who are extremely talented, writing great books that nobody's reading because it's just lost into the shuffle. And there's so many ways to market, and there's so many things to always learn. And you know, it's just, there is a little bit of luck to this. So it just goes back to, how important is the writing to you, and write what you love.
yeah,
End of story. Write what makes you happy.
yeah,
Because there's just, this is not a get rich scheme by any stretch of the imagination.
yeah.
Some people get really, really lucky, very few and far between. And I guarantee those really lucky ones have some years they put behind
Oh
this.
yeah, everyone I've interviewed, everyone I've talked to, there's 10 years in the making. There's no overnight success. Very, very rare cases where they do hit the right market at the right time, at the right genre, at the right, like what actually has kicked. And the readers are the ones that are creating the, you know, how it's all like right to market and that type of thing. Like the market, the readers, if you look at the top 10, like they are in multiple different genres. It is not like dark romance is killing it, thrillers are killing it, you know, hockey romance is killing it. Like you'll have multiple different ones in the top 10, and that just goes to show how how readers are. It's not a specific, it's so hard to write to the market. The market is determined by the readers and what is actually hot right now, and it's so hard to catch on to that. And hats off to people that can write that book in a month and hit that thing and like hit that train. But it's impossible to people that actually have to spend a lot of time developing and plotting and writing the book, because we have lives, we have full-time jobs, we have other commitments. Like,
And I have to question when those people do hit it like that and that quickly, if they don't kind of fade away or putter out, because it's hard to be under that kind of pressure and do what you just did, right? So that, you know, but as far as, and I think too, this is like on this note about readers, I think, yes, each individual may kind of lean more towards one genre over another. I lean towards thrillers and mysteries. However, if you were to go look on my nightstand right now, I know for a fact there's 2 nonfiction books, there's a thriller, there's a mystery, and there is a romance. Oh, and there's a fantasy. There's a big fantasy book there too.
Yeah.
I literally have all I can think of, you know, so I'm like, I think readers read and they want to read good books.
Yeah.
Period. So go back to writing what you love. So I'm always going to be writing mysteries, and like I have tried to go in other directions, like, oh, I'm going to try paranormal, I'm going to try this.
But you've always got that element to it. Like you've got your, not spice, but like you've got your thing.
I got my murder.
And you can add that across multiple genres, which is cool. But you've found your thing that you like to, like that you will always lean back on. But you can write that in multiple different genres, which is cool.
You can, and when you go back and you look at murder mysteries, when you look at mysteries, there is a little bit of there is a formula for sure to it, whether that's an amateur sleuth or a homicide detective, or it's a noir or it's a paranormal. There are formulas to writing the mystery, and again, it comes down to the variety of clues and red herrings, and really what it's also just, it's really character. It's writing good characters.
You need to write a book on like how writing murder mysteries and coming up with the plot structure for that. I think that would be really cool.
I wrote a book years ago on writing, but I think writing one on mysteries would be good. I want to do I want to do a course on it.
Let's brainstorm. Let's chat about that. Add it to our list of things.
Okay.
All right.
Our list of things.
Yeah, list of things to do. List of dreams and what we want to achieve. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I've absolutely loved this chat. I've taken so much from it, and I'm looking forward to, sharing my book with you and getting your feedback in terms of like, because I know that's your thing. You've written so many books on it, and I look up to you in that sense of those types of books. So I think like what we're going back to and talking about earlier of like, people around you that can read it and provide feedback, because they know like that's what they're good at and that's what they've done for many, many years. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I think we have to have a discussion on romance next.
Yeah.
So you can help me there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll see everyone in the next episode. If you love this episode, let us know, and drop your comments as well on our socials, and any questions that you have that you'd like us to talk about next or answer on the show, we would love that.